doing all right this morning. I don't know about you, but I've been absolutely loving, slowing down, delving into Colossians on a Sunday morning, and it's been a joy to do that together and consider the richness of Christ, the richness of the gospel. And in chapter 3 of Colossians, Paul, and we'll get there in a few weeks' time, but Paul basically says, let the message of Christ dwell among you richly. And I'm really fascinated by the way that he puts that word richly in there. He doesn't just say, let the gospel dwell amongst you. That's a good thing to do. He says, let it dwell richly. There's a sense in which the good news of Jesus isn't just something we need to hear once or twice. It's not something we need to just accommodate in our lives, but actually it's something we're being asked to allow to dwell richly amongst us. The gospel is bigger than we think it is richer than we think it is, and we actually have a role to play in letting it really kind of let loose as treasure in our lives. Christ is our treasure, and so we're encouraged to make every effort to treasure him in our hearts and in our life together. So obviously we do that on a Sunday morning. That's why we gather. It's why we gather online as well. It's something that we do in our small group time. It's something that you may well do one-to-one with a friend. But I guess Thoughtful Thursday is also about us trying to kind of let the Word of God dwell richly in our own personal walk with God as well. So I just want to flag up a couple of resources this morning, a couple of helpful books that are all about really slowing down and letting the message of Christ from Colossians dwell richly in our lives. The first is this one. It's called Bumps, Babies and the Gospel by someone called Sarah Darg. And I'm probably not pronouncing that name correctly. But this is a great little book for people who are about to have a baby, or people who've just had a baby. And it describes itself as an antenatal class for the heart, which I just thought was brilliant. An antenatal class for the heart. But she takes the book of Colossians and really does exactly that, just simply and slowly helps us to slow down and apply it to our lives. But this is what she says in this book about her aim. She says, the Apostle Paul certainly knew that the battle was on for our heart. When he wrote to his Christian brothers and sisters in Colossae, I want you to know how hard I am contending for you and for those at Laodicea and for all who have not met me personally. My goal is that they may be encouraged in heart. So this book, she says, addresses your heart, the steering wheel that controls and shapes all of your thoughts and words and deeds. In the midst of all the noise that accompanies Bumps and Babies, we're going to walk through the book of Colossians together, establishing some core principles that will prepare your own heart for parenting. Now, that may apply to you personally. It may be that you've got a friend in mind who you think, actually, it'd be lovely if they had that, and it'd be lovely if maybe I sat down and read that with them and maybe discussed it with them, prayed some of these wonderful truths into their lives with them. So that's one little tip. The second is this. It's called The Hope of Glory by Sam Storms. And it's 100 daily meditations on the book of Colossians. Now, each one can just be read in like 5 or 10 minutes, so it's ideal for a commute or for a lunch break or something along those lines. But this is what Sam Storms says about the book. He says, I've written this for the average educated Christian. I don't know if you feel like the average educated Christian or not, but anyway, this is what he says. Well, it's not entirely accurate, he says. I'm assuming that although average, you are passionate to know Christ better, hungry to be filled with the knowledge of the truth, and desperate to see him lifted high and holy in your life and in the experience of the church as a whole. If that describes you, or you wish that were true of you, then this book was designed specifically with you in mind. So that's another way you could potentially just take time to slow down and drink in the richness of the gospel in Colossians. But of course, you don't really need a special book of some kind to help you slow down and treasure Christ more deeply. My prayer is very much that we'll be doing that as we read Colossians together. And also you could take simply a single verse from the passage that we've looked at that Sunday, maybe memorize it. You could reread the passage that we've had on the Sunday just each morning as you get out and get up and drink in that deeply. You could take a single prayer point from the sermon and then pray it into your life and the life of a friend as you're brushing your teeth before you go to bed, presumably that you do brush your teeth before you go to bed. But regardless of all of that, let's be praying. Let's be praying that together we might grasp more fully the mystery of God, namely Christ, in whom are hidden all of the treasures of wisdom and knowledge.